Welcome back to the Integrate Intelligently podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Brickler. I'm joined by two marvelous guests today. Robert Jolliffe from Sabre Limited, a business central VAR. Robert, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, our founder and CEO of CADTALK, Scott Brickler. Scott, again, welcome to the show. Glad to be here talking manufacturing.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about a number of topics, Robert, and I think just a little story here first. Several years ago, I don't know if you remember this, but because you were kind of the star of the show, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you were giving a presentation on fixed implementations for ERP. And this was at Microsoft Business Central Partners. What do they call that show?
Directions.
Thank you. Directions. So there was a Directions I remember attending. It was one of my first ones, and I was really interested in hearing. So I sat down in your talk. So I think today we'd like to talk a little bit about your experience with that. Like what motivated you to start that? How's that gone for you? I know I went to your segment, and I know you were teaching a lot of others. So really interested in hearing how that's working for you, how you the stories around that.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll give you a bit of background because that'll help, I think, understand where I'm coming from. So my father and two of my uncles owned manufacturing companies when I was growing up. And I like to tell the joke that when I was in high school, my dad's shipper receiver quit. I was pretty young. It was like maybe 14. And he told me, hey, you're going to come into work this summer, because it was like June when the guy quit. Summer vacation was just about to start. And so against like violating many child labor laws, I had to work in the factory that summer as the shipper receiver of my dad's company. And that's a pretty intense thing for whatever I was, 15-year-old to do. And so I describe to people that I've been in the manufacturing space for 40 years, which belies my age. But I went to university. I got a degree in mechanical engineering, intending to be a production manufacturing engineer, maybe move into like a plant management, operations management, COO kind of role. That was sort of one of the paths, or maybe a consulting role, but like an engineering consultant, environmental engineering, something like that. That was the stuff I really liked. And I accidentally fell into this ERP thing. Mm-hmm. I was always the guy that at school, if we had problems printing a paper and, Word or WordPerfect back then didn't work, somebody would come to me and say, do you know how why this isn't working? And I'd fix it. I was always really good with computers, really liked it. I did, as summer jobs, I did like IT service tech kind of jobs. Back in the day when you had to carry floppy disks around and you had a little kit with screwdrivers in them to do IT computer work. And when I got this job at a capital equipment manufacturer in Ontario, I'm Canadian. Don't hold it against me. And when I got this job, they wanted a part-time industrial engineer and a part-time IT guy. And I was lucky enough to convince them I wasn't a good industrial engineer, because it wasn't from what they thought of an industrial engineer. So I ended up becoming their internal IT/ERP expert. And I taught myself, and they were a manufacturing company. It was not a Microsoft ERP. Now it's owned by Infor. And they were a capital equipment manufacturer that was more engineer to order. So they had some core components that were repetitive, but they had a lot of customized engineered solution around their product line. And I kind of was, in my prior experience, being more in repetitive manufacturing. And so I was intrigued by this. And after a few years working there, I'm an outgoing guy. I would go to the user group meetings and talk to people, and I would tell them about what I was doing at this company, and people started offering me work on the side. And they said, do you want to come to us and do these reports you're doing? Started to practice kind of out of my basement, air quotes, as a ERP consultant, and basically over the course of about 10 years, I think I probably visited between 200 and 250 manufacturing companies that had this particular ERP, hired a few people as I went along. And I got, starting with just me out of the basement and ending with about 10 people who were working for me, and doing a lot of custom programming and doing these projects for customers, like training projects and different things. And I would often quote a time and material project. And I remember very distinctly a customer who's a production manager, operations manager at a really unique manufacturing company that was like turning 12,000 pound castings on an eccentric on his lathe. Like this guy was dealing with like crazy big parts, and it was really fun to be there, and like 2-story tall horizontal boring mills and things like that. Like they were, it was being the land of the giants, right? Everything, I felt tiny compared to everything else there. And he said, how can you why can't you give me a price for this? I could never get away with selling something to my customer and telling them, I'm going to charge you for the time. Like if it's volume, right? If it's a one time, yeah, I could do it. But why can't you give me a price? And I sort of started kind of explaining to him that there's a lot of risk involved. And I literally said, your people could be dumb. And so if I'm supposed to train them, like how am I supposed to control that? Yeah, because you're half of this, I'm half of it, you're half of it. But it got me thinking, like, yeah, why can't I do a fixed fee? Like, what is it about these projects that make them? As it for 2012, 2008 comes, right? Terrible disaster, like, the economy's crashes at the end of the year. This is the year I decided to sell Microsoft Dynamics because I have great timing. And so obviously that doesn't go well. But meanwhile, over the course of a few years, I began realizing, I like selling my own ERP because I didn't sell. I only serviced. I was a service consultant. And so I'm seeing everybody else's mess and I think I'll sell it. I'll do a better job. My customers will be happier. And what I ended up doing was going to a course Microsoft put on. And the course Microsoft put on was about creating repeatable ERP projects that were predictable and had a fixed fee. Now, they were talking really small fry stuff. They were talking about like a $20,000 project maximum where it was industry specific, like pick some really narrow focused inventory or industry vertical, and you'd go after that with a product that was specifically designed for it. And I went to directions and I found out about Dynamics NAV at the time and said, let's switch the practice over to NAV. And then I kept going and I kept thinking in the back of my mind, like, I like this idea. And I don't know if it was at the same time or a little later or a little earlier, I read an article called Time and Material Billing is Unethical. It was on LinkedIn. It was in my feed. And I read this and I went, yeah, you know what? Every reason that they're saying that it's unethical, I agree with. Things like if you went to a restaurant and they charged you for the time and the wasted steaks of a young chef who can't prepare a proper, medium rare sirloin for you, you shouldn't be charged extra because they don't know what they're doing. And why would we charge people time and material? It's unethical. You can hide how much you're really billing, and you could sneak in extra hours that the customer doesn't need. There's an incentive. There's like a perverse incentive to make the project take longer and be less efficient for the seller. And the incentive for the customer to cut the project and make it go faster exists, except they don't. Often the seller is encouraging them not to do that. So anyway, I eventually, by about 2016, had developed 2017 developed a or a fixed fee, kind of quasi fixed fee model. And then I don't know when you saw me, Jeff, speaking at Directions, but around that time, before I started speaking myself, I went to a session and there was a company, because I had so much trouble doing this $20,000 fixed fee for manufacturing. There's this company that was selling fixed fee, repeatable implementations at $100,000. And I said, they keep saying I can't sell for 100 because nobody will buy it. I have to sell for 20 because that's like, and they're like, yeah, but it depends what your competitors charge. Like if your competitors are charging 100 and 200,000 and you charge 100,000, you're still cheaper. You're going to win a lot of business. And it was like a light bulb went off and I realized, I don't have to be cheap. It's not the cheapness of it that sells it as fixed fee. It's the fixed fee-ness of it that sells it as fixed fee. So our product, our implementation methodology is a combination of an upfront fixed amount, which is invoiced in installments, and a monthly, we'll call it a retainer that goes on during the project. The customer is responsible for doing more than our competitors would make them responsible for doing because I don't make any money doing that. The competitor will try and upsell the customer to let us do those activities for you, but they're charging $250 an hour to do an activity that realistically a $30 an hour employee at the customer could easily do. So I just start off with your employees will be trained to do this. And most customers like that because it's the stuff that they do relatively repetitively, like change the layout of a purchase order form and make it look different or add a terms and conditions to it. We train them to do that stuff. So they're not calling us. It's not a billable thing for me. I don't make any money when they ask for that to be done. So training them to do it makes a ton of sense because then they're empowered and it's teach a man to fish, right? Like that kind of model. So there's a bunch of elements where we do that. And then I think the other thing that allowed this to really work was the creation of this kind of video conferencing technology that we could record our training sessions. So now we're getting to the dumb people. Remember I said, I don't know if your people are smart or dumb. So I could record a training. I could execute the training. I could record it. It creates a video. The video becomes a retraining. When you call me and you say, hey, I want you to reteach this. My people didn't understand it. Then we first of all, we find out Who didn't understand it? Well, it's one person didn't understand it. The other two were okay. That means the training was fine, but the person didn't pay attention or it was going too fast for them or whatever. So we say, watch the video and then make notes about what it is you want us to dive into. And we'll deep dive into the areas of the video that were confusing. But often they watch the video, they come back and they say, don't worry about it. It's fine. Now that we rewatched it, we know what we missed and we're good. So the ability to do videos of the process has created this new capability to allow the customer to sort of retake the training course. So they're having me have to do the work to retake the training course. But that being said, our model is you need to be trained again. We're not going to fight you. You have to watch the video so that we know that you actually put some effort in. Like it has to be a little skin in the game for the customer. But once you've done that and you're like, we still don't follow because this 12 minutes of the video didn't make sense to us. Okay, no problem. We'll do a half-hour dive into that 12 minutes so that you get clarity on it. And that's our model, and it's worked very well. Generally, our customers are very happy with it. Had a couple clients that are we want it our way. We want our project manager. We're going to hire our own project manager and they're going to tell you how to do it. We can't do that. Like that won't work. It has to be our way. It has to follow our methodology. Can I add one last thing? Because
Sure.
just blathering on.
No, you're fine.
It creates the opportunity for me to do continuous process improvement. And I am a Lean Six Sigma guy. Like my manufacturing engineering has led me down the path of being theory of constraints. Eli Goldratt, I've read every book and listened to all of his recorded seminars that I can find.
Right.
I've read Lean Thinking about 6 times and I've taken I think It's Not Luck is more important, by the way.
What's that?
I think It's Not Luck is a more important book than The Goal.
Okay. I've read, I'm an industrial engineer originally. Yeah. So that was like training in college.
Yeah. It's Not Luck is a fascinating Eli Goldratt book. It's the sequel. Still Alex Rogo. He's still vice president, but now the theory of constraints have broken down and they're not working. The bottleneck processes are not working. Anyway, very interesting book. So I've been applying my own variation of Muda 7 wastes to ERP projects, which include having somebody with too high of a skill level do the work. Like you don't need that tier of skill to do that activity. So it should be done by a lower skilled person. Obviously, rework is always Muda, right? But things like overtraining, teaching something to somebody that they don't need is a waste, right? So a lot of our model is really getting into with the customer. It's bespoke, but it's like we start off with a very large set of options for the customer to choose from. And then we work early in the project to sort of narrow down what they really need. Because if we train them on everything and they don't need everything, we're wasting time, right? We're wasting effort on that. And the customer's wasting effort. Their people are sitting in a class for something that they don't need. They're paying their employees to spend that time. We're paying our employees to spend that time. So it creates a new incentive structure to design a project plan that's tighter and leaner and less error prone too. So our customers, when they go live, it takes a little longer for some of my customers to go live than my competitors. But when they go live, the error rate is really low. So the support is really smooth and they go live and it's not that disastrous. Oh my God, this was hellscape, which you get with a lot of ERP projects. It's actually a lot tighter.
That's really interesting. Is I have a similar background. I'm like the idea of applying. If you have a consistent enough process, then you actually can apply theory of constraints to it. But if you have like bespoke craziness going on with every project, like you can't get enough iteration to see where the problem is, right? It's kind of
right.
It's more difficult. Yep. So that's
and,
really.
And I'll say
really
this
cool.
other thing, like if you are doing it as a project and you have PMPs running it, they think of it as bespoke every time, and they're going to recreate the wheel every single time. They're thinking it is the uniqueness of it is what gives the PMP value. I don't have project managers. I have operations managers and project coordinators who work for the operations manager. So the operations manager is responsible for making sure the whole thing is going smoothly across all the projects. And they're driven to creating repetition within the projects as opposed to finding all the uniqueness and making them unique in Snowflake projects.
Interesting. That's a cool way to approach it because it's the only way you can actually then once you know that, then you're able to you're able to extract value from both ends of the equation. The deal becomes worth it for you and it becomes worth it for the customer.
That's right.
And that's exactly the deal you want for everybody to win. That's a great way to do it. Yeah. It's like, I just listened to your story. It just felt so familiar. Like that's some very similar backgrounds and stuff. So I was just like, that's, I would agree with you 100%. It's this great way to approach it.
Yeah, thank you.
So how did you I always think about when I was on projects, one of the hardest things, and maybe you already have this, is scope creep. It's right. It's
Yep.
additional. Hey, can you do this little thing, right? This little thing. I mean, I do it even to the guys coming to my house for construction, right? It's like the plumber comes to
Mhm.
fix your faucet, and he's like, "Hey, my toilet's running. It just becomes this thing, right? It's just a natural thing. Nothing malicious, but how do you?
So the best way to think about our projects is there's a box, and within the bounds of the box, you can creep around and modify them as much as you want, right? Like we're not gonna. I want an extra user field added here. Or I want this report. Can I make it so it prints landscape? Or because remember, we're training the customer to do the what I'll call the aesthetic modifications of reports, which are super time consuming. Like some people get down to I want a point size Calibri in an 80% gray, and can you move it like 3/32 of an inch to the right? Right. Like we're dealing with there's some clients like that. And it's like, absolutely, here you go. Here's how you do it. And I don't have to worry about that sort of thing. So that has reduced. But what I did when I originally did these projects, Jeff, is I tried to identify where's the variability. I sat down with my team and I said, where's the variability and where's the predictability? And the predictable stuff are all very easy and controllable. And the variable stuff, we've reduced as much of it and delegated it down to the customer. So some of the scope creep that our competitors see, the customer could self-serve. They can do a lot of that on their own.
Mm.
Then the second part of scope creep is I have in my fixed fee, what I have created is 3 tiers, kind of like you get your package from your television provider and they give you like the basic package, the enhanced and the super package, right? Like kind of 3 tiers like that of what I call a minimum viable go live. These are the minimal requirements in order for your business to go live. So if you pick the middle tier and your team starts coming to us and saying, oh, well, we want the top tier features. It's a very easy conversation. It's upgrade to the top
Right.
tier.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to upgrade to the top tier? And they have to go to their boss and they have to say to the owner of the company, hey, we didn't think that we would need advanced warehousing with bin locations and warehouse shipments and stuff, but we think we need it now. So we need to upgrade to the top tier. And the boss is going to challenge them and he's going to want them to explain exactly why, what's the reason, because now he's being asked to spend, let's say, an extra $20,000, right? And they have to justify that. So what the 99% of the time is when they come to us and they say that, and we explain, just upgrade to the top tier, go to your boss, ask if you can upgrade. They go, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no, one of the magic of activities or magical outcomes of switching to from a time and material project model to a fixed fee project model is the arguments are almost all gone. Whereas there's no arguing about why did you bill me for this because they're not being billed for anything, right? There's no arguments about why wasn't this included in the project plan because they chose the project plan from predefined on our website tiered choices that they selected. So if they're like, why did you make me choose tier 2? It'll be like, we didn't make you do anything. Do you want to upgrade to tier 1 now? It's like it's like I ordered the 8-ounce steak, but I should have got the 12. Okay.
Right.
Do you want to buy another steak, like a 12-ounce steak? So it's really the menu model has kind of eliminated that problem of scope creep. Now, I'll say this last thing. We bill for custom programming. That is time and material. That part is excluded from project. So if you want time and material work or on premise, like in-person consulting activities, those are outside the scope of the project. They are billed, but that's very clear from the beginning.
Selfishly, I'm looking at this, like Jeff, like on our side, like how our stuff is.
When I saw one of the reasons I went to Robert's thing, and I'm glad we're talking about this today, is like I love this idea. I absolutely love this idea. I think it can be done. It's a little selfish of me, Robert, but we have part of this today, but I think we could even do, even more so, turn this into more menu driven, like you have. I've been pushing that way since I'd heard your talk several years ago. Not quite to the extent that you have it, but really trying to drive that.
I'm going to give you one last bit of information that I think is very, very useful, and it's good for customers who might be listening to this. They're thinking about going and getting an ERP system. We require our customers to sign up for a mandatory 1-year support contract with us. It's a help desk support contract. It's very robust. You could get some consulting hours out of it. I call it a continuous improvement support contract because I'm all manufacturing focused, right? All that continuous process improvement is like my work. I live there. I have felt that, like, in the beginning, we didn't require it. We let customers go live. But what would happen is they would start DIY because they didn't really understand the ERP. They didn't want to spend let's call it $200 an hour or $250 an hour to call us to get something done and ask us a question because they were afraid of getting billed. And what that led to is it led to them painting themselves in corners, creating problems for themselves, ending up with a lot of issues. And so
Trying to save a buck. Just trying to save a buck. Yeah.
but
Causing more
tried to
problem.
save some money, which maybe a lot of money, right? Like it could have been
be.
that they
Yeah,
were really
absolutely.
worried about how much this would cost because partners like other ERP vendors tend to bill at minimum increments of half an hour.
Yep.
And so you
Wow.
send one question that takes 5 minutes to answer, but you get $100 bill. And
Like a lawyer.
yeah, it's like a lawyer. It's a lot.
Like a
It is actually a lot like an accounting firm or a lawyer, and you call and you talk and you get billed. So what I did was I said, because customers will on the one side they'll kind of be a little bit of pardon to those people who are ERP companies, a little abusive of a kind of open-ended support contract where they can set up as many meetings as they want and have. So what we've done is we've got a governor on the meeting frequency. You can set meetings up, but you can only do one at a time. So you have to wait till the meeting you set up is done before you can have the next meeting. But you can have these meetings with consultants. So you can have like brainstorming and you can talk about how do I do this better. And then the help desk part, which is just a closed-ended question, right? Like a question with a legitimate, this is my question and there is an answer for it. Those are help desk tickets and you can have as many of those as you want. And the rule has always been if we have to get on a call to help you solve a help desk ticket or we have to jump into your system, you have to be there. Like you can't just dump it to us and say you fix it. Like it has to be you're with us while we fix it. That's to keep people from just throwing stuff at us and saying it's your problem when they could just do it. They just are lazy and they don't want to. Well, now they have to be there anyway, so might as well not call us. Let's find out how to do it the first time and then they'll continue doing it. But I think that has really helped because that's reduced the amount of people playing with it on their own, trying to do things, getting stuck, and then getting frustrated. And because they're stuck and they're frustrated, they begin to sort of stop using the system, go back to Excel, and kind of like that. That has really reduced that because they have no excuse not to call us and just say, we're having this problem. Can you help us? Because there's no, like they're paying for it. It's a flat monthly amount. It's not that expensive. And it just covers my cost, but it gives them a lot of value and makes their lives a lot.
Yeah, we had something like this, and I this was the original intent, Scott, of that idea was that because with any software, right? We sell and service it, but with CADTALK, but like they won't call you if they don't have that. But if they have it built in, they'll call you, they'll get what they need, and they'll be happy and keep using it, right? The risk of them not calling you is twofold. One, they DIY it, and then it causes more problems. They break it. Problem two, they don't say anything. They quietly suffer. And then what happens is they're unhappy. They're just unhappy, right? They're just completely unhappy. Like this thing's terrible. You know, Robert sucks. Microsoft sucks. Everything's terrible, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't want that, right? You actually want the customer to be pleased with the implementation, the product, and it's usually not because the product's terrible or because the product, it's just they don't know, right? They're just a bit stuck and they don't want to ask.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And so if there's nobody there to ask, you'll sometimes just make assumptions.
That's really, that's a really cool way to do it. I think it kind of aligns the incentives. Really what it is, it just aligns the incentives on everybody's end in the right direction. Like, so it's like, somebody, and then, I mean, ultimately you look at it from a business standpoint, some customers are going to use a lot, some customers are going to use a little. That's going to even out and ends up being like kind of like an insurance policy when it's all said and done. And then everybody benefits from it. You know, it's like, so
I like to describe it as those old internet providers who would buy like I'm going to use like a megabyte of internet, but then they would sell the modems and then there'd be 100 people that could use like 10 megabytes between them all if they all turned it on at the same time at full speed, which happened, by the way, for those of you who are really young, when George Lucas released Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And he crashed the internet with the first massively downloaded preview of a movie in like 2000 or 1999. I remember it happening. I remember like everybody was like complaining about the internet that week. But like, that's how I describe it. I'm sharing across many customers. They're using it, but they're not all using it exactly at the same time and consuming all the resources. So it works great.
I mean, it's how banks work.
Yep. 100%. Yep.
It's thanks for not everybody's pulled their money
Nobody
out.
likes banks, so hopefully they
Yeah,
like me.
yeah.